Well, hi everybody, this is Tim Mai, and I have my good friend and mentor, Doug Ottersberg, on the line with me. Doug, say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody.
Yes, today's video interview is about how Doug Ottersberg, my mentor, multi-real estate millionaire, made his first million. And some of the things that he'll share with you, it's very different than what I initially thought of what it means to make your first million. And as I learned from Doug, the way Doug looks at money, the way he thinks about money is very different than most people. And that's the reason why he's a multimillionaire and most people are not, right? So Doug, if you can just real quick share with everybody a little bit about your background and how did you get started as a real estate investor, and how did you make your first million?
All right. Well, again, thanks for having me to be here. I never set out to be a millionaire. I was just looking for something different to do. I had been running my own business, self-employed, for 7, 8 years. Before that, I had worked at a corporate job, and I found out that was not something that I was suited for. And so we, being a couple of friends of mine and I from school, started our own company. And as luck would have it, we were introduced to a business mentor. We rented the back part of a gentleman's business, and eventually just grew and grew and grew and took over the whole building. And it was great because he had been in business for a long time and took an interest in us and shepherded us along the path. And I remember something he said to us as we were first getting started, and as he would come in and see us progressing, he's like, the business that you guys are doing, it's an awesome business. It's the kind of business that will never make you rich. However, it can provide you with a very nice lifestyle, and it can also be a stepping stone to something else. And I always remembered that because I found myself, 7, 8 years later, alone. My partners had since gone away, and we had moved out of that building and found some other space, and he would stop by now and then to check up on us. And one day we were out at lunch, and he said, I'm really proud of you. You've taken what I've shared with you. You've taken it and implemented it. And that's where most people fail, Doug. They don't implement. They can learn, but they don't use. Right. And, that's what's great about what you've been able to do is you actually use. So something that I want to share with you now is, he asked me the question, what would happen if I didn't show up to work? And I thought about it, and I said, well, nothing would get done. He goes, and what about your bills? And I said, well, they just wouldn't get paid because I wouldn't be making any money that day. And so he said, the next part of your progression is you need to now learn to get something other than you working for you. Oh. And so we had a conversation that day about what that meant and how I might go about doing it. And so I said, well, you haven't steered me wrong thus far, up to now. Tell me, what is it that you do? And he said, well, I like real estate. And so we started talking about the different ways of real estate investing. And, I'll bring this story down short, I'll make it shorter. We can, share more next time we see each other in person. But, we found that our whole objective stemmed from wanting to get something other than us working for us, so that we would be able to build a life and a lifestyle around and build a business to suit it, as opposed to the way most people do it, which is the other way around. They try to fit their life into their business, which is what I've been doing for years and years. And so with that background, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife of 19 years, we went out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We did what most people do. We went, we bought books. At the time, this was the early 90s. The internet was just getting going, so there wasn't a lot of information there. So we had to ask around. We went to, groups, like the one you have, Tim. We met people, and we went to seminars, and, we had to fly all over the country and spend a lot of time and money and effort to get at, the information, because it wasn't as readily available as it is today. And we found some great mentors, again, just like we had in business. I found some really great mentors and coaches, that were, I guess you could say, the teachers of today's teachers. Gosh, because that makes me sound kind of old now. But we just studied and we learned to be smart about money, and we learned to get smart and educate ourselves on investing. And the thing that we always kept in mind was, how is this going to meet our goal of working so we don't have to? And so that was our whole premise. And, I jokingly say, how do you become a millionaire? It's like, well, you start out with 2 million, right? But I didn't have 2 million. And so I also had heard, if you'd like to become a millionaire, one thing you could do is go $1 million in debt and figure out a way to pay it off. Well, I joke when I say that, and yet that's sort of what we did. My wife and I, at the time, we just applied ourselves to learning about real estate investing. We would go learn a technique, we would go learn a concept, and then we would just go do it. And it didn't always work, but sometimes it did. And, just like in baseball, the more times you get up and you swing that bat, the more often you're going to connect. Babe Ruth, home run king for years and years and years, was also the strikeout king, right? So we don't call those strikeouts. We call those seminars, because you pay for education one way or another, right?
Right.
So, we just kept working and working, and, we'd come across something we didn't know. We'd go figure out who did know that. And we would tell them, hey, you show me how to do this and I'll be your best student. Right. And so, just one day we woke up and wow, we'd accumulated a lot of assets. And so that was the goal. And that's what we're still doing today. And although we're not buying as many assets, we're still growing. But we're starting to shift into that phase where it's more about taking care of what we've got and harvesting some of what we've planted over the years.
Right. So now, what if you share with everyone, like, what asset did you get into and how did you decide, which asset? Because there's so many different aspects of real estate. There's so many ways to make money in real estate. Which one did you choose and why?
Well, after looking at all the different ways of making money in real estate, at the time I was reading a biography of Sam Walton and read about how he started his business and how he had, branched out into the smaller areas, the smaller towns. And I looked at that and I thought to myself, what makes his stores so appealing? Why is it so successful? And I realized it's because it's affordable. And when I started looking at real estate investing, I thought to myself, wow, all of these different techniques that I'm using or learning have their place. And, the whole real estate market was based upon, high-end luxury houses all the way down to, affordable housing. And so when I was reading about Sam Walton and why he's so successful is, he went out to where there's not a lot of competition and where it's really, really affordable, that hit me. And I thought to myself, wow, that'd be kind of a cool business. Why don't we, let's look at the affordable housing industry and look at areas, just like the Waltons did, and perhaps look into areas like that no one else is concentrating on. And then the thing that really sealed the deal for me was one of my original mentors. When I went to the second meeting where I'd ever saw him, second seminar, I went with a friend and his mom. And his mother was kind of like mothering us along, and she's like, now boys, you keep your mouth shut and your ears open. And I want you to remember, you never know who you're sitting next to. And you're going to meet some people here at this particular meeting. Now, they might look like they shop at, the Goodwill. I want you to remember that even though they might look like that, looks can be deceiving, and they can probably write a check and buy this hotel. And so that left a big impression with me. And as I started to get to know a lot of the people in that particular group of investors, I learned that a lot of them did own a lot of high, dollar assets, commercial, hotel, and the one that they owned the most though was mobile home parks.
Interesting.
And so I thought to myself, well, if they've already done the research, and at the time I was in my mid to late 20s, and these were people at that time in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Like, if those folks are experienced and this is what they have said, this thing works, why do I need to try to reinvent the wheel? Why don't I just go straight for that? So that, coupled along with the whole idea of affordability and doing something that other people weren't clamoring to do. Even today, you say, what do you do? Well, I invest in mobile homes. Ew, mobile home, trailer parks, tornado magnets. And, I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you probably wouldn't be interested in that, right? The thing that we found out back then still holds true today. The nuances and some of the things have changed over the years, but the basic premise is the same. It's a cash flowing business. And the day my wife and I closed on our first mobile home park, manufactured home community, if you will, we became financially independent.
Wow.
And that really made an impression on me, Tim, because at that point, and I was fortunate, it was early in my investing career, I realized that I had met my first goal. And that was to get something other than me working for me.
Right.
Because I realized that the income that came in was enough to take care of not only the investment itself, but also my wife and I, with money left over at the end of the month.
That's awesome.
And so
do you mind?
And so,
Yeah, so off of that first property, you mind sharing what kind of cash flow was it bringing in?
Well, at that point in time, after all was said and done, and realized we were living there, it was paying for our shelter. We didn't need to have a house because it paid for that. It paid for our vehicles and insurance and gas and phones and water, light, everything. So we didn't need a whole lot for ourselves. Plus, we were newlyweds, right? So didn't have those younger mouths to feed and kids to clothe and everything. But we were clearing $3,000-$4,000 a month.
That's good.
And so we're like, wow, this is awesome.
Right.
And we just started taking that extra money and saving it up. And at that point in time, this was a real rehab project. So we would take that extra money, save it up, and little by little, we would repair the electrical system throughout the whole community. And little by little, we would, do all the improvements and take out older homes and bring in newer homes. And, eventually got to a point where we did a refinance and pulled out just about as much cash as we paid for it, originally. And as we speak today, we're in the process of doing that a second time. So,
what is that property worth today?
Today, it's probably worth in the neighborhood of, $2.5 million.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's like, so interesting. What'll happen is when you pick one thing and you focus on that one thing, and you just learn discipline by doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, which is, the core of anything that you want to become successful at, whether it's real estate investing, playing the guitar, learning to speak. You just do things over and over and over again, and eventually great things will happen.
Right. Yeah. So, sort of summarize what you're saying is that the way you built your wealth, the way you make your first million wasn't to go out there and make $1 million like in one shot. It's about making a little bit of money each month, and then, and growing that asset each month that builds up to multi-million-dollar assets.
Yeah, because, along the way, Tim, what you're doing is you're developing really good, really strong financial habits. And you take that discipline of doing whatever it is you need to do for that particular niche. I know, in talking with you and with some of our students, in the wholesaling niche that you're involved in, one of the disciplines that you've got to do to be successful is get on that phone and start making those phone calls. Do your marketing and make those phone calls. And when you've got a coach like Tim telling
offers, in the wholesaling business, you're not making offers, you're not making any money. That's just the bottom line.
Exactly. And so it's a simple process, and yet not everyone will follow the process. And along the way, that's why it was so important, for my wife Anna and I, just as it is for you, has been for you, and it is for your students, is you find that coach that's willing to share what they know with you. They're going to show you what you need to do because they want you to be successful. And as long as you just do it, and you do it repeatedly, you can't help yourself. You will eventually score that home run. Or at least a single or a double. It doesn't have to always be a home run. A whole lot of singles and doubles add up to a great day at the ballpark, if you know what I mean.
Right, exactly. And, which brings up to the next thing we want to share with everybody is our event coming up, that you and I are going to be doing together. And so, what are you going to share with everybody at the event?
Well, one of the first things that I'm looking forward to sharing with you when you come to our event is the secret methodology, if you will, that was passed on to me by one of my first mentors. I mean, just imagine you've got this mentor that's taken you under their wing, and, they give you a little bit, and they see how you do with it, and so they see that you're actually, you're serious. You go out and you apply it, you come back, you ask questions, then they give you a little bit more, and you go out and you come back, and finally, it's like one day they invite you over and they take you into their study and they close the doors, draw the blinds, and they walk over to the safe and they open up the safe and they pull out this really old, leather book and say, "This is the secret of my success." And they put it in front of you and they're offering that to you. Well, that's what I'm going to share with you. It was done for me, and when you come to our event, I'm going to share what my mentor shared with me. That when you follow this step-by-step, easy to implement formula, you can't help yourself but become wealthy.
Awesome. Yeah. And
we call it a simple plan.
Yes. And just so everybody know, some of some of our students that came to the last event that Doug and I did, has already gone on. It's only been 3 months and has already gone on to do multiple deals. Sean, if you remember, Doug, Sean Hahn, he did 3 deals just last week. Jeremy was doing pretty good business, but he was burned out from the wholesaling business. So, from what he learned from us, he the other month, he took 3 weeks off, and still made $35,000, and so, it's a great, event, and people get into action. That's what I love about, this event that we have coming up called Fast Track to Your Financial Freedom. And that's, it's exactly what it means, right? It's putting you on the fast track, to making sure, you achieve your financial freedom. When you leave out of the seminar, you're going to be not only, be inspired with the plans that you created, the dreams that you created, but you're on track, you're on the fast track to turn those dreams into reality. And so people leave the seminar taking very fast action, making deals happen. So to sign up for the Fast Track to Financial Freedom seminar, just check the page below here and register. And it's coming up, and so we look forward to seeing you at the seminar.
Absolutely. And I just want to take just a quick moment and remind you, it's not just another seminar. It's a hands-on interactive seminar.
Right.
I've spent the last 6-7 years of my career coaching folks just like you, whether they're just, getting started, wet behind the ears, newbies, to folks that have been around for a long time. And, one of the areas that we're going to get into is helping you design your investing to create the kind of lifestyle that you want. And for those of you that may be struggling to get started, or you've hit a block and you don't know how to proceed, we're going to show you exactly what you need to do. And it's a whole lot easier than you think to get yourself unstuck and take action. So absolutely, join Tim and I. Click on the link down there, get yourself registered, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. So with that, we'll see you at the event. All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.